In a realm where gods fall, kingdoms tremble, and family feuds hit harder than any hammer, one podcast dares to ask, what if they just said sorry? This is Super Sorry.
Welcome to Super Sorry Takes on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the podcast where we talk superheroes and super apologies.
We're Todd and Amber, longtime collaborators who love to discuss movies, TV, and media.
This podcast started out as a fun discussion between us, and now it's the place where we get to explore the movies we love through the lens of apologies.
And we're kicking things off with the MCU because when you think about it, even though they have superpowers, superheroes face struggles just like us regular people.
And we might be able to learn some valuable life lessons from them. We're using the power of apology in superhero films to help us figure out how apologies can play a part in our own lives.
Each episode this season, we look at an MCU movie and ask who screwed up, who evolved, and who maybe could have just said, I'm sorry.
We're diving into the psychology behind the heroes, uncovering the humor, and exploring what their choices reveal about their own character, while asking how these larger-than-life figures influence the lives of everyday people.
We're cracking this one wide open, so if you haven't seen Thor, now's time to grab your hammer and brace for spoilers ahead.
We're not experts, just fans with feelings. And if we miss something or get it wrong,
we are
super sorry.
Before we get into it, here's our recap of Thor.
Spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the movie, now's your chance to pause and catch up. You can find it on Disney+. If you have seen the film but need a refresher, check out the link to Marvel's Thor site in our show notes. You'll find trailers, an overview, and character profiles.
And here's our rundown. Thor begins as the proud god of thunder, ready for glory, but arrogance, banishment, and a broken hammer send him crashing to earth.
Thor struggles to reclaim his worthiness after being banished by his father Odin. Meanwhile, Thor's brother Loki, the god of mischief, plots to keep Thor away from their home Asgard by any means necessary, including cozying up to Asgard's sworn enemy, the Frost Giants.
We also have Jane Foster, Thor's astrophysicist love interest, who discovers a cosmic mystery that changes her life forever.
And finally, a small town in New Mexico becomes ground zero for all of this cosmic chaos.
The movie dives into themes of humility, identity, and what it truly means to be worthy of power.
Now that we're all caught up, let's get into the apology audit. It's time for the apology audit, where we each pick one fire apology that was truly effective, like a fire emoji, and one misfire, an apology that technically happened but didn't quite stick the landing, like a sad snowflake emoji.
And from my count, there are 13 existing apologies in the film, and I think the fire pick is kind of an obvious one, so I don't want to steal that from you in case you got the same one. So what is your fire pick?
My pick for the best fire apology is Thor to Loki during the Destroyer fight when he says, "Whatever I have done to wrong you, I am truly sorry. These people are innocent. Taking their lives will gain you nothing, so take mine and end this." And I love this apology, not because it's just the best apology we've seen in this film, but it's the best apology in the MCU of the films we've watched so far. So for me, why it ranks number one, like all out, is because it takes full accountability. He sacrifices himself, and he's very focused on the protection of the bystanders. I also love that it's a major plot point because it triggers the hammer's return, and then, it comes to revive Thor. So it's like not only a good apology, but it gives him power and strength. So I love this, and to me, this is truly the power of apology.
And that is definitely the one I was thinking about. And why it works for me also is it doesn't come out of the blue. A few scenes before, there's another apology that Thor does to Loki. It's when Loki comes and visit him when he's kind of captured by the shield when he's trying to, get his hammer. And Loki shows up and basically says, "Oh, you can't come home. I'm sorry, brother. You're kind of stuck here. Dad's died and all that." And then Thor replies, "No, I'm sorry. Thank you for coming here." First kind of little crack in the armor of the boy king Thor at the beginning of the story where he's actually kind of thinking outside of himself. And he's like, "Oh, thank you for coming here. Like, you didn't have to do this. I really appreciate you." And it's appreciating other people and what they're doing for him. So it's actually a nice little kind of preamble to your fire apology. So I like like it also, yours, because it doesn't really come out of the blue. There's actually a little bit of a setup before with his pre-apology to Loki.
I mean, even though Loki is like full on manipulating him in that moment, but you know, whatever. So are you like letting me have the top fire apology? You don't disagree? You don't have your own fire apology to present here?
No, because I have one that probably not an obvious one. So I was excited to kind of talk about this one and get your input on it. So I didn't want to do the other one if you were going to do it as well. So this one, I want to kind of hear what you think about it, because it's not the one maybe you think of the Thor to Jane. It's, I'm sorry, it's not as much as I promised. And this is when Thor captured in the shield base, and he gets out there because of Eric has a fake ID of, Donald Blake, MD, the reference to the comic book version of Thor's kind of mortal human alter ego. So it's kind of a little wink and a nod to that. And he gets him out. Eric gets him out of the base, and he's walking away, and he gets the black notebook that Jane's lost to S.H.I.E.L.D. when they go and they take her computer, they take all her stuff, they take her special, secret journal that she has, and he actually sees it. And he thinks outside of himself, even though he didn't have the opportunity to get the hammer. He's thinking of others in the moment, and he's like, Jane would actually appreciate this. This is not what I promised her. I promised her to get all her stuff back, but this is all I can do at the time. I'm not the god of thunder and I can do everything. I can just do this little thing at one time to help somebody else out. Not being the greedy, selfish person, as Odin calls him earlier in the movie. He's kind of thinking outside of himself and showing some growth.
I mean, he certainly shows some growth here, and I suppose it's like a lead up or a warm up to what I think is clearly the best apology, not just in this film, but in the MCU thus far.
Yeah, and it's also a good apology too for, I think it's a fire, because of Jane's response to him at the time. She's happy because I don't want to have to start from scratch. Thank you.
Well, it's her life's work that's been stolen by S.H.I.E.L.D.
So it's definitely he does a well enough job that she really appreciates it, and it's really well received. So it's, for me, it's a good, complete fire apology.
Well, this leads right into my misfire pick.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually when Agent Coulson from S.H.I.E.L.D. says to Jane, I'm sorry, Miss Foster, we're the good guys, after S.H.I.E.L.D. takes all of Jane's scientific research, all of her scientific materials, and Darcy's iPod. This is not a real apology. In fact, I would call it like a non-apology. It's just wrapped up in a justification of why they are taking her property. So very low sincerity here and pretty much no accountability, which is why it is my misfire pick.
Oh, definitely. It's just like a conversation filler word where he's kind of trying to be polite and kind of make this bad thing seem less bad that he's taking all her stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely a misfire. It's his intentions are, he's not really sorry. This is part of his job. This is what he does for a living. He goes and takes people's stuff and for the greater public needs or whatever. So, misfire.
And what's your misfire?
For me, it's when Loki is going to see his brother when Thor is captured after trying to get his hammer back, kind of punches his way in there and kind of goes and grabs the hammer to do his Excalibur moment where he pulls it out of the stone, but he's not able to release it from its position because he's not fully worthy yet. He's done a couple little things at this point, but he hasn't really gone the full extra mile to actually deserve and have the worthiness there. So he's trapped, he's captured there, and Loki comes in doing a little bit of manipulation and says, oh, this is goodbye, brother. I'm so sorry that you can't come back to Asgard. I have to leave you here because father's dead and your mother doesn't want you to come back and everybody's kind of mad at you. So you need to stay here and kind of have your time out. So he's, obviously the manipulation aspect of it is the misfire because he says, I'm sorry, again, kind of like Agent Coulson, but the words don't really mean anything.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he's like more like the god of manipulation as opposed to the god of mischief.
He's definitely using his mischief to the nth degree to kind of, take it to the manipulation point of other people around him. And then also this kind of interesting about this scene too is right after this, Loki goes himself to try to pick up the hammer. Maybe I'm worthy now because I'm doing all this stuff in my mind for the greater good of Asgard. I'm trying to keep Thor away. He's kind of a boy king and he's greedy and selfish and not really thinking of other people. And I don't really think he deserves to be the king of Asgard. So I'm going to kind of manipulate the situation and keep him away because I think this is better for everyone as a whole. So he kind of has his intentions, goes and picks up the hammer and realizes that, oh, maybe I'm not doing all the right things either. So it kind of has him question some of his intentions of what he's doing there too. So I think it's a whole interesting scene there with Loki with the hammer too.
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought about that, about Loki, that could be part of his character arc. I could see Tom Hiddleston, the actor, kind of taking that on as a motivation for the character. And, I don't want to not give credit to the writers if that was their intention, but I never really thought about that before.
And now for our fire and misfire rankings, what do you think our top fire apology is?
I think is very clearly. The apology from Thor to Loki during the Destroyer fight, whatever I've done to wrong you, I'm truly sorry. He takes accountability. He is basically giving his own life to protect the people in the town. And then it triggers a major plot point in the story, a big evolution for his character. So to me, this is hands down the best apology because it's sincere. It takes accountability, and it is the maximum amount of repair that he could do to both his relationship with Loki and to protect the people in New Mexico.
So I'm going to push back on that a little bit because maybe that's the obvious choice. I don't really know if it's the top apology because it's the most obvious apology. I think my top apology is a more under the radar one that's not less obvious, with Thor getting Jane's notebook back for him and saying, I'm sorry, it's not as much as I promised. So I think for me, I'm going to push back a little bit on that because it's a little obvious. You're going for that low hanging fruit.
You have a nice little apology that you're presenting that is clearly a warm up to the apology that I have presented. So again, not only is this the best apology in the film, it is the best apology in the MCU we've seen thus far in terms of clearly taking accountability, what is said, protecting people, completely sacrificing himself. So I don't see all of those things happening in the apology that you have presented. There's no protection. He sort of takes accountability because he's like, that's all I could get. But
yeah, I guess you're correct. It is definitely the best one we've seen so far in the MCU movie. So yes, that is the top fire apology.
And now for our top misfire apology. So as a reminder, I chose the apology from Agent Coulson to Jane, which is essentially a non-apology for taking all of her things and insisting it's all in the greater good because they're the good guys.
And for me, my misfire was when Loki tells Thor that basically he can't come home back to Asgard. So this is goodbye, brother. I'm so sorry.
I mean, neither of these are real apologies, right? And while I do really like my apology, it's snarky.
Yep.
I do think the misfire apology that you've presented has a much clearer impact on the story. And so I'd lean towards that one.
Yeah, I guess for our fire, misfire, they're kind of mirrors of each other. I think yours is a really nice, small apology, like mine, Thor to Jane was, but my Loki to Thor about not being able to come back home as a bigger story element in that. So it's the number one misfire apology. Loki to Thor, this is goodbye, brother. I'm so sorry.
So we're going to post these apologies on our social media, and you should let us know what you think. Do you agree? Do you have a different one that we didn't mention? Make sure you let us know. And up next, apologies that could have been, aka the Super Sorryverse. This is where we imagine the apologies that never happened, but maybe should have. So we've covered the apologies that actually made it into the movie Thor, but what about the ones that got lost somewhere between Asgard and Earth?
Welcome to Apologies That Could Have Been, our little corner of the Super Sorryverse. What's that? Picture a multiverse where gods swallow their pride, brothers talk it out, and sorry isn't a word reserved for us mere mortals.
Let's not kid ourselves. Thor can smash a coffee mug and yell another like it's a personality trait, but apparently not manage a simple apology to Jane for turning her research into a cosmic mess.
In this segment, we're spotlighting the scenes that were desperate for an apology, the kind that could have healed a family feud, or at least kept S.H.I.E.L.D. from confiscating half a desert.
We'll break down what should have been said, why it matters, and maybe even what it reminds us of in real life if S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't confiscate our notes first.
Probably depends on how classified this segment gets.
Well, let's jump into it. What is your first apology that could have been? What apology do you wish you would have seen in this movie?
Well, I'm going to do your non-favorite things I do when I kind of pair things up. So I'm going to pair up my 1A and 1B. When Jane to Darcy grabs the steering wheel and drives them back, into the storm. They're doing a little storm chasing. They're going down this dirt road. Darcy, rightfully so, is getting a little nervous as they kind of driving towards this tornado-like object. And is like, I don't want to die for 6 credits, and turns away from it. And Jane grabs the wheel from Darcy and just steers them back right into the eye of the storm. And like, it's very clear this is not what you signed up for. And Jane's just like, nope, I'm going to put your life in danger. And then the second kind of part of that too is when Jane, again, is kind of dismissive to Darcy when she's being very clear. And it's when Darcy's, lamenting her loss of her iPod, which is a big deal to her, and Jane's like, can you please just stop it with your iPod? I don't want to hear about your little problem. I got big problems. I lost my computer and all my research. So, she's not the great mentor, Jane to Darcy, is very dismissive of what's important to her.
Yeah, I suppose just like our superhero characters, Jane herself herself is pretty flawed. She's pretty focused on herself. And the only other person she seems to be focused on is Thor. So, she's got priorities.
Not the intern, yeah.
Well, I also have an apology I would have liked to see Jane give Thor this time.
Okay, yep.
And is for hitting him with her car twice. Once when he falls out of the sky, and once after he gets out of the hospital, which is pretty crazy. Like, obviously, it's for a comedic purpose in the film, but you got to take responsibility for driving a vehicle that apparently you can't seem to use the brake.
So do you not consider Jane's apology to Thor, I'm sorry, I swear I didn't do this on purpose, as a non-apology for running him over? She does do it. Is it just not a good enough apology for running a guy down the street twice?
I mean, she didn't apologize the first time.
I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. This is the
swear
second
I'm not
time.
Doing this. That's not I'm sorry. She said I didn't do this on purpose.
She does say I'm so sorry.
Well, then that's an apology.
I didn't do this on purpose, though.
So what other apologies do you have, Todd?
Well, I have one. It's kind of a conversation starter about Heimdall to Odin. I think he needs to apologize to him because he has one job as the gatekeeper of controlling the passage of people around the realms. And he basically lets Thor and Sif and the Warriors 3 go start a fight with the Frost Giants, which is obviously has a lot of bad things that could happen with that starts. Kind of lets him go just for his personal knowledge of wanting to know why or how the Frost Giants got into Asgard when they sneak in and stop the coronation. There's kind of a selfish motive there for his own personal benefit. He wants to know what's going on. He kind of endangers not only the Asgard realm, but maybe all realms beside of his simple curiosity. So I think it's the sin that kind of kicks off the whole story. So if he didn't let them go, I think it doesn't kind of start the whole cascading of the stories. His use of that also was later on with he walks away and lets the Sif and the Warriors 3 go get Thor back. So I think some of his motives are a little questionable himself. And there's not motives. His decision making is a little questionable.
I think that is putting responsibility from other characters on Heimdall when it's not his job or his choice. Thor should apologize to Odin for starting a war and betraying the peace. So should Loki for letting the Frost Giants in. So it's not like Heimdall did anything other than let his own curiosity happen. All these other things were already in motion. So a little questionable to me. But one of the apologies I would have liked to see is Thor apologizing to all the hospital staff for all the injuries he caused them when he tried to get out of that bed. There are a lot of injured people. There's probably patients in distress because of this, major chaos and direct endangerment of these medical professionals and any other vulnerable patients. It would be nice to hear some sort of acknowledgement or even an apology from Thor.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in a kind of a strange world, a strange land, doesn't know what his surroundings are, but this, fighting the doctors, the nurses, the security guards, and really no realization what he's doing at the time is how it affects other people. It's, I guess, part of his journey. He doesn't really think of others at this point in the story.
Right. But he gets there eventually. Yeah. So it would have been nice then to see him come back around and
do some volunteering as
something.
For me, I think Odin himself, Thor's father, needs to apologize to Asgard because he's coronating Thor, who's kind of more of a boyish person at this time, not really thinking about others, to be king of Asgard. He's only stopped by Loki's mischief, trying to do some hijinks and kind of make it a weird coronation by letting the Frost Giants in there to cause that whole controversy. For me, like I said before, Loki kind of is standing up and trying to save Asgard from some of these decisions, and Odin says it himself. He's a fool for letting that happen. So I think Odin kind of needs to have a little apology to the Asgard realm as a whole.
You're just doubling down on this Loki fan club going for him.
The voiceless.
Well, I think Odin has a lot more to apologize for than just what you mentioned. He needs to apologize to Laufey for taking his son, Loki, from him. He needs to apologize to Loki, which he doesn't even do in the moment, even though Loki is so distressed to learn that he is not who he thought. He's not Odin's son. This whole world crumbles, and Odin doesn't take any responsibility in that moment. And not only that, his wife Frigga and Loki, that's the only mother he's known, also doubles down and says, Odin did this for a reason. Basically, you need to trust him. And so to me, Odin has a whole lot of explaining to do that he never gets to, at least on screen in this movie.
Yeah, he's trying to be the wise elder statesman, and he's some questionable decision making himself. So I'd agree with that. And for me, another one is Thor, how he kind of gets his friends, his ride or die group of Sif and the Warriors 3 involved in all this destruction of the frost giants. He's like not only going to do this himself, he's kind of putting his friends in the harm's way for this, unnecessary battle that's going to be happening that kind of goes behind everyone's back to solve this problem himself. So it's not just endangering himself, he's endangering his close friends as well. So
yeah, not just putting in harm's way. One of them gets impaled and I don't actually know how he lives. I still can't figure it out. I'm like, how is he still alive? So, I mean, an apology with the Warriors 3 and Sif would at least rebuild some trust. So they just seem to follow him blindly. Like even when they show up on Earth and they show up in the window and their faces pressed, hands pressed, waving to him in eagerness, they're like puppy dogs. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird relationship there. And I think you're referring to Fandral, who's kind of the Robin Hood-esque character that's injured by the ice getting his shoulder. And that's kind of begins their retreat, realizing they're not going to be able to win this battle versus the Frost Giants. This is not all fun and games anymore. This is like some serious things happening there. So
it looks pretty bad, honestly.
Yeah, but obviously he was able to fix it and be good for the rest of the story.
So the next apology I sort of would have liked to see, but I didn't ever expect, at least not at this point in the story of Thor and Loki, is that Loki needs to apologize to a lot of people. Obviously, he's not going to do it, so I don't really expect it, but there's so much there. He needs to apologize to his mother, to Thor, to Odin, to the Frost Giants, everyone who he's manipulating, but it's just not in him. So I am going to lay this one down and not go for it. But in theory, he should take accountability for all these things that he's doing.
Now that you mentioned the earlier thing with Thor kind of punching his way out of the hospital, it makes me think of the scene when he's punching his way into the SHIELD base that's researching his hammer. He just kind of goes in there, beating the crap out of people as he makes his way there. There's a little cameo of Hawkeye. Maybe he's going to shoot him with his bow and arrow and not really thinking of others. He's thinking of his selfish thing that he's trying to get his hammer back.
Yeah, nice appearance for Hawkeye. And I thought it was interesting how intrigued he was with Thor. He was like, are you sure you want me to do this? I'll take the shot if you want me to take it, but it's really getting interesting. I want to see where this goes. So I thought that was kind of fun.
You think he's aligning everybody, starting to identify with this guy. I'm starting to like this guy.
So do you have any other apologies you would have liked to have seen?
I think that's plenty of apologies that need to be seen, but I think those are the main ones for me. Yeah.
Well, these missed apologies could have clearly mended some family feuds, or at least saved a few shattered coffee mugs in New Mexico. But what makes an effective apology?
A great one needs accountability, empathy, and a little humility. 3 things Thor didn't pack when he got banished to Midgard.
We'll post our super sorry verse pics online, and we want yours. Which apologies could have saved Jane's lab equipment, kept Loki going from full Shakespearean villain, or spared S.H.I.E.L.D. a desert headache?
Next up, Damage Diary, where we tally the wreckage and ask, was breaking the Bifrost Bridge really the best plan?
And now it's time for Damage Diary, where we tally up the chaos and collateral damage left behind by one very grounded god of thunder. Thor might be about humility and worthiness, but the destruction, still enough to make S.H.I.E.L.D. file a 300-page incident report.
First stop, Puente Antiguo, the tiny New Mexico desert town that becomes ground zero for a cosmic smackdown. We've got Thor's hammer hitting like a meteor, S.H.I.E.L.D's locked down, and the destroyer turning Main Street into a scrapyard. We're talking flattened storefronts, scorched pavement, and wrecked cars. Estimated cost, easily $3 to $5 million for repairs and cleanup.
And don't forget the Bifrost Bridge, shattered in the final act. That's not just a bridge, it's Asgard's interstellar highway. Rebuilding that, let's just say Odin's treasury took a hit that makes Midgard's GDP look like pocket change.
Add in Jane's lab equipment, fried by cosmic energy and the S.H.I.E.L.D. confiscation, and we're looking at another $250,000 to $500,000 in scientific losses. Total physical damage for the movie, roughly $5 to $7 million Earth dollars, plus one priceless rainbow bridge.
And what about all the regular people impacted? The ones who didn't sign up for a God versus Destroyer showdown, like the diner owner whose entire livelihood got pancaked by a blast wave, or the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent stuck explaining why half a town looks like a war zone.
In this segment, we each pick one innocent bystander, not a major character, and imagine their diary entry or Instagram post about the worst day of their life, because behind every epic hero shot, there's someone thinking, but who's replacing my fried Wi-Fi router?
Let's kick things off. Todd, who's your first bystander pick?
Well, it's not just a bystander. It's the whole town of Puente Antiguo. Has a lot of, acts of God happening to it. And unfortunately, I think most of these people hear the acts of God, the God of thunder, and all his comrades are destroying this town. And that's not really covered by their homeowner's insurance. Sometimes the acts of God is covered by your auto insurance, but it's not really a property insurance type thing. This is the first time any kind of gods have shown up in this Marvel universe. And so I doubt there's any kind of pre-existing acts of Thor coverage that they can kind of have on their insurance. So there's a lot of loss of property and money going on there. Yeah.
I mean, I feel for those people, just like in every superhero film we've watched thus far, there's always a whole neighborhood. And in this case, a town that's like pretty much totally taken down.
Yeah.
We get so much property damage. And then there's like the trauma and displacement from these folks who then have to deal with the aftermath of all of this. But speaking of, like populations impacted, what about the frost giants and Jotunheim? Like their whole planet is essentially destroyed. I don't even see many of them left. So clearly there are casualties. So to me, like that is a major collateral damage / impact of this power conflict between Laufey and Odin and Thor and Loki. What a mess.
I guess for my next one, I want to kind of be very, take it the opposite direction about a very small thing. We're not talking about worlds being destroyed, realms being destroyed, towns being restored. We're talking about Izzy's coffee mug. So when Thor goes to Isabella's diner and really enjoys his cup of coffee, his cup of Java, and his excitement throws it down and asks for another. That's Asgard, maybe a sign of approval, but not a typical play to earthbound way of showing someone that you approve of their food.
He does say he means no disrespect, though.
That's true. And it's not in the movie, but there's a deleted scene, supposedly, where he kind of goes back and replaces the coffee mug that he broke to Izzy's. So that's part of his journey of growth of being worthy. He's
replacing the coffee mug?
Yeah, he feels bad and gives her one back. So he's trying to mend the fences and become a better person by fixing the damage that he's doing around him.
Real redemption arc in this film.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't really have any individuals this time around. I already mentioned the hospital patients and staff. Clearly, I know they have a duty of care environment, so they're always going to do what they have to do, even in moments of danger. But I'm sure they were not expecting that in the moment. And then to have this person or this man there with superhuman strength just personally injuring them and ruining equipment and along the way. I just feel for the hospital staff there.
For my next one, I want to bring up Stan Lee and his character where he's trying to use his truck to pull out the hammer that Odin sends back to Earth. Stan Lee has a little bit of ownership of this because I'm not sure why he's tying the chain to the bed of his truck. I think if you're going to be pulling that out, you want to have that on your axle, a more stronger point of your vehicle than the truck bed, which is easily, as we saw in the movie, removed quickly when you try to pull it out.
Maybe that's part of the joke that Stan Lee, as some sort of mountain man or desert man, doesn't have a clue.
Yeah, doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, good point.
That's it for my bystander picks.
Yeah, that's it for me too.
All right, that's Damage Diary. Because behind every thunder-charged close-up, there's a diner owner asking Google how to get scorch marks off stucco, and a scientist wondering if cosmic debris counts as a lab expense.
Up next, our biggest takeaway. And no, it's not hide your coffee mugs when Thor's in town.
So Thor has taken us on quite a journey, from royal banishment to hammer-smashing redemption in a tiny New Mexico town. Our biggest takeaway? You don't need a hammer to fix things. Sometimes all it takes is an honest apology.
Because being worthy isn't about lightning or brute strength. It's about owning your mistakes.
And that's a wrap on Thor. From shattered coffee mugs to a rainbow bridge in pieces, we've covered it all.
We broke down the apologies that happened, the ones that didn't, and the millions in damage Odin probably didn't budget for.
But what do you think? Did we get it right? Who owed the biggest apology?
Hit us up on social media and let us know. You'll find our channels in the show notes, or head to supersorry.com and join the Super Sorry Club.
As always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show.
Next time on Super Sorry Takes on the MCU, we're diving into Captain America, the First Avenger. It has patriotism, Hydra chaos, and one very iconic shield.
Until then, I'm Amber.
I'm Todd.
And we are Super Sorry. Super Sorry is written and hosted by Amber and Todd. Produced by A Super Sorry LLC. Music by Jam Studio. Special thanks to Marvel's Cinematic Universe Wiki, MovieLocations.com, IMDb, and Screen Rant for serving as sources for Damage Diary. Your support helps us keep asking the hard questions and saying the hard apologies. Thanks for tuning in and sharing with friends. And if you're listening from New Mexico, Jotunheim, or Asgard, we are super sorry.
Are you like me, and every time they reference the Bifrost as a rainbow bridge, does your mind go and think of Nintendo's Mario Karts and the Rainbow Road? That's where my mind always goes. Now, I think it's not just me. The Super Mario Brothers movie that was released in 2023 also treats the Rainbow Road as the same thing as the Rainbow Bridge and the Bifrost by having the characters use it to go between kingdoms in the Nintendo. Not in the video game, but in the movie, they're ripping off Thor using Rainbow Road, same as the Bifrost Bridge.
Super Sorry is not affiliated with Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Studios, the Walt Disney Company, or Disney+. As of this recording, all Marvel characters mentioned in this podcast are the property of the Walt Disney Company.